Well, hello there, and welcome to this week's edition of the VoiceOver Weekly Stew. Is that Scottish or Irish? I can never quite tell. Well, anyway, it is St. Paddy's Day, the day I'm recording this, and it has been a rather light week, actually, for based on the average of the first few months of the year. But that's okay. It gave me more time to focus on some marketing things that I've kind of let lapse and learn a few things along the way. Actually got a telephony demo done. Telephony is basically business messaging, on-hold messages, things like that, that businesses use, small business, medium, large businesses use to greet their customers and put them on hold. And, you hear that annoying music, and then the guy or the lady comes on every now and then and says, wah, 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 if you were Charlie Brown's teacher and you were to do that. So I'll let you take a listen to that right now. Thank you for calling Essence Healthcare's Medication Therapy Management Department. This call may be monitored or recorded for quality purposes. Para español, presión el número dos. If you're calling about a letter you received or responding to a voicemail message, please listen carefully. Thank you for calling Georgia Power Washing, Georgia's premier power and soft washing company. Please wait, and an agent will assist you. I did have some work, and let's pull up the calendar and take a look and see what it was. Week 13th through the 17th, 18th. I had a legal document presentation to read for a Qatar or a Qatari legal team. I had an explainer video. I had some alcohol and food server training to do for a fantastic producer located in Fort Lauderdale I do a lot of work with. Train your employees to grow your business for you. Uniform, reinforced, and tracked training allows a business owner to get every employee working properly towards the main goal. We help you create simple videos, build reinforcement questions, assign the training as often as wanted to the necessary employees, monitor their progress, and make sure they pass the test on a regular basis. Watch your business grow as your employees are more focused, better trained, and ready to grow your business for you. This voiceover client I'm working with has this part of a school curriculum for kids, and he sends me a picture and basically says, come up with a character voice. So I did that. And this particular one was the voice of a Pompeii teacher, and essentially was, of course, Pompeii being ancient, and he had the wreath around his head, and he had a toga or a robe or whatever it's called. He was an older gentleman, so I'm thinking, over like this, perhaps he was educated far beyond what I'm educated. And so I did a character voice of him explaining to children what the schools in Pompeii were like. And it was pretty much like that. And the client loved it. I do 2 takes pretty much for every project I get, if it's short enough. Obviously not for a 10,000-word presentation. I'm not going to do that. I'll normally go through and do a rather conversational read like I'm doing right now without the stumbles. Maybe I'll articulate the company name or the title of the program or the title of the product in a very clear, distinctive, pause before I say it, hesitate slightly afterward, pregnant pause, and then continue, that kind of thing. So I Skyped with a client located in California because it's much more convenient than, traveling, and cheaper too. And doing a character voice for a general named, I don't even know his name. I can't even say his name now. I just read the lines. I can't actually say the general's name, but he has a very powerful, deep, authoritative voice. And sometimes he gets very emotional and very angry, as a general might do. And he tells his servants and his troops to do what he says, and it gets done, because that's what he does. And I was told by the client, Elio, that the general does not cry. He does not cry. He's not a crybaby. He's a strong general from the old school. He got emotional. He got passionate, but he would not cry. So I couldn't cry. So the very next day, I had the opportunity to do something that I love to get into, and that is doing Southern sort of soldier voices like this here. And I had the opportunity to work on a project where I believe it's being used for a documentary. And then later on, I had the opportunity to read. He said use the same voice, so I kind of varied it up because this guy was a major general. The second one, I got the idea. The first one was more of a foot soldier, and I'm thinking it was a Confederate soldier because of the time period and the things he referenced in his diary. And so I tried to give that a little more of a harder edge with a bit of a Charleston flair to it. Well, it was a little bit highbrow like this here, but still rugged with a major general. I tried to envision what a major general might sound like. It's a kind of that older school Southern gentleman kind of thing, but a little bit older like this, not a Colonel Sanders, because that would be a butt up here in Beauregard. Beauregard, get me some of that magnolia blossom tea stirred up here and bring me some, why don't you? So I didn't do that because it wasn't him. Then the next day, Friday, let's see, I had and this was a light week, folks. Muscat International Airport is currently being built. I'm doing the audio for the virtual tour of the facilities, and I had to sync up my voice, and they had a few changes, so that's been ongoing for a while. I did a commercial for a real estate company called streamsandviews.com, but it was for a beautiful property. Man, it made me want to go fishing. It made me want to go outside. And, of course, it was cold and wet the day I did it, so I had to stay here and just stay focused and look at some pretty pictures instead. In Southern Virginia, a few miles west of Interstate 77 at the end of a narrow private gravel road, there's a 133-acre tract right on a secluded mountain trout stream named Crooked Creek. At 40 feet in width, it's more like a river than a creek. The water is so crystal clear you have to sneak up on the trout. You can see them, and they can see you. Paddle your canoe downstream about 9 miles, and it takes you to the New River, second oldest river in the world. Then later on that afternoon, I had a children's story, which I love to do children's stories, if you can't tell. And it was for the part of a guy named Mr. Onion. He actually has an onion for a head, and he had a friend, and the kids were asking Mr. Onion, hey, why do you wear those glasses? Apparently they were magical glasses because when Mr. Onion took the glasses off, he smelled like a stinky onion head. So that's why he wore the glasses. Also did some e-learning training for a client out in Texas that I do a lot of work with, and I have to sign an NDA, so I can't really talk about it, but it is essentially for utility workers and safety training. I can say that much. When I do e-learning, I make it a point to try to visualize the target audience to find out first from the client who they are. So essentially the formality scale goes kind of like you may have medical, science, legal, engineer type of high-end scientific projects with terminology, lots of acronyms and things like that, where you're being more formal and articulate, and you're explaining things in a different way than you would to a utility worker who's going out in the field to check whether or not a pipe is leaking and what to do about it. So as opposed to explaining the nuances of the pipe system in a voice very like this, which will put them to sleep, or would put me to sleep, you're breaking it down and you're just talking. You're reading from the script, of course, but you may be adding a few things and just with a little more relaxed tone and just explaining to them about, the importance and the fact that it sometimes can be a matter of life and death. And now and then emphasizing certain things because it is safety training, and it is somewhat technical, but at the same time, it's very pointed, and it has a direct impact many times on their life and the lives of the folks that are working with them and the general public. So it's just a different way of looking at the e-learning than I didn't always do when I started out doing this, and so I think I'm able to communicate better than I once did. Did some podcast work for a company that needed some some commercial taglines done for a fireworks store. Star Fireworks is located right off I-29 at the Wild Rice exit.
If the sign out front doesn't say Star Fireworks, woo, keep driving.
So that wraps up another edition of my voiceover weekly stew. You guys have a fantastic week, and hopefully I'll see you next time.